Huge fight this weekend, one of the biggest middleweight fights of all time. And I'm going to give you the best breakdown for it on YouTube. I'm going to break down both fighters, the situation around the fight, and then give you a prediction. Now first, let's discuss where are these two guys in their careers. Now Adesanya is coming off of a year-long layoff at the age of 35, which might not be a negative thing given how much he was fighting, but the bigger issue than him being away for a year or him being 35 years old is the fact that this man has had 60 to 80 kickboxing fights and around 30 MMA fights. He has taken a lot of damage. Despite the fact that he hasn't taken too many brutal beatings, he has been KO'd multiple times and he has been hit to the head, whether it's in training or in fights. His body's probably gone through a few injuries. He's not fresh anymore compared to Du Plessis, who is right at the start of his middleweight prime. And he's actually a decently active fighter. This will be his 5th fight in under 2 years, and he's also not going to be injured, which he was going into the last 2 fights. Now, let's have a look at Du Plessis as a fighter. Arguably the weirdest, slowest, most awkward champion in the recent history of the UFC, let alone currently. He always fights like he's in mud, he's in slow motion until he kind of just turns it up and then breaks people. He did the same thing with Bronson, he did the same thing with Till. He did the same thing with Rob. He looks like he's losing fights, he looks like he's struggling, and then he's able to kind of just mix in his pressure and then random accuracy on the feet and grappling, and then breaks the best middleweight in the world. Now half the people watching this video will be thinking, yeah, but he lost his last fight, given how many people actually think Sean won. But even if you think Sean Strickland won, lost, it doesn't matter. Who is able to back up Sean Strickland in the way Du Plessis did? He obviously hits harder than people think. This is something that Robert Whittaker has said about him after he lost to him, and he has insane pressure on the feet. Awkward, yes, but he's accurate just enough and definitely powerful and strong enough to get people's respect on the feet, hence that leads to the pressure, and obviously his grappling is maybe the best, or at least offensively, in the middleweight division right now. Along with these factors is also the fact that he has very good cardio. People know that he went through a surgery last year which he was saying would improve his cardio by at least double or triple, and it has. However, there is only one downside to the way Du Plessis fights. I respect the way he fights. I like the fact that he kind of tries to bully people. He uses his size maybe the best out of anyone in the division, but he is extremely hittable, and I know he hasn't been cracked bad yet, but just because it hasn't happened yet does not mean that it cannot happen. And that brings me nicely on to Adesanya, who, despite the fact that he has been 1-2 in his last 3 fights, and even in his win against Alex he wasn't looking great, he would still be considered the best striker in this division since Alex has left, and that stands even at the age of 35. And this is his 12th title fight in a row compared to Du Plessis' 2nd, which is not something that people should ignore. The fact that this man has that much experience can be a big factor, especially if Du Plessis for some reason decides to get nervous that night. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on what Adesanya does well, just because it's been spoken about so much and I've even covered him so much on my own YouTube channel, but it's just worth mentioning he's one of the best strikers in the UFC. He's very experienced, he has great cardio, he has very good takedown defense, he has decent power, very good chin, and is defensively very sound. Now, with all of that said, let's come on to what I think is the issue with Adesanya. Now, I'm not saying he cannot win or that this is going to be a dominating fight, but he has 2 holes, in my opinion, going into this fight that Du Plessis will be able to use. One is there for everyone to see, and they've been discussing going into the fight, and the second is more of a hidden issue. The first is the fact that in his last few years, like I'd say 2021 onwards, he's committed to this really stagnant back up against the fence, let the other guy dictate pressure while you try to land very pretty clean shots type of style. Like it's this Leon Edwards, Corey Sandhagen type of thing, where more Leon Edwards, where they try and wait, create space and land the perfect shots, mainly with these kicks that they try and land and then try and use their boxing behind that. But it doesn't work that well anymore, especially after what Sean Strickland's done. You know for a fact Du Plessis is going to try and exploit that. Now, will he be willing to change his fight style at this stage of his career? Now, if he does, he will have to put himself in danger, which means that obviously he can get cracked, he can get embarrassed. It means that he'll give up the shot, meaning he will get easily taken down if he kind of sits on his shots too much. He starts missing, he sits on some kicks that Du Plessis manages to catch. But you have to remember, Adesanya hasn't always been this defensive minded. He's been able to beat up people like Paulo Costa and Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum while obviously being on the back foot, but he doesn't commit to it the way he does now. This style of wanting to throw everything picture perfect and expecting everybody to bite on your feints, it doesn't mean anything if the people who are biting on your feints don't actually get hit with anything. He throws these feints out there as if he's going to land the shot after, but against Sean Strickland, he constantly throws out feints and then misses the 1-2 behind it or the big switch body kick behind it. He's not really landing that consistently, and he's going to have to earn that respect from someone like Duplessis, because if he doesn't, Duplessis will just pressure him, back him up, take him down, top control, beat him up and break him. If Adesanya is not able to demand some type of respect, I don't even think this fight will go into the championship rounds. And the second issue for Adesanya is that even though he has very good takedown defense, he has incredible distance control and he knows how to get out of danger at the perfect time. He's good at throwing out a couple shots and down the middle to keep fighters off of him. He's like Leon Edwards before the Bilal fight. But his issue is the fact that Duplessis is a big step up in competition in grappling. Duplessis is way better in grappling than people give him credit for, and if he was to take Adesanya down, I think he's going to do nasty work. And I know I've said this many times already now, but Duplessis bullies these people. He's a physical freak in that division. The way he did to Rob, what he did to Rob in the first round, where in the last minute of that round he takes Rob down, kind of just big brothers him, and he low-key mauled Rob at the end of that first round, which kind of set up the second round, giving him the win. I mean, nobody really talks about it enough, but that moment there is actually what gave him the win. And we've seen him do till what he did. We've seen him break Bronson, and he breaks many people. And he's going to break Adesanya if Adesanya starts giving up consistent takedowns in the first half of the rounds. And that brings me on to my final prediction. Now, I am not counting out Adesanya. I will always give him a solid 30-35% chance of landing something big, something that can put Duplessis away, especially if he's able to commit to an aggressive style. If he's able to put himself in danger and commit to something big like a big uppercut, a big knee down the middle, I can easily see Duplessis going to sleep just because of how slow he is and how awkward he is and how hittable he is. But with that said, I am going to go with the Duplessis win in this fight. I think he's going to be able to get enough respect from Adesanya on the feet just by putting himself in danger and by pressing forward, and I think he's going to be able to use his grappling and physicality to land takedown after takedown, and as the fight goes on, I think I can see him get a finish via submission or top control, ground and pound, or maybe by decision.